I never imagined that the person begging me for my kidney would also be the person who made me say the cruelest sentence I have ever spoken in my life. And when the words left my mouth, the entire family group chat went dead silent, like the air had been sucked right out of the room. So the question that still keeps me awake at night is this: did I become the villain in my own family? Or did I finally stand up to someone who had started believing my body belonged to her? My name is Nikki. I'm 27 years old, and until recently, I really thought I was the kind of person who would do anything for family. The kind of person who would give up comfort, time, money, maybe even pieces of my own body if someone I loved truly needed it, which is exactly why everything that happened still feels unreal to me. About 6 months ago, my cousin Tessa found out her kidneys were failing. Tessa is 30, 3 years older than me. Growing up in a big American family in suburban Pennsylvania, we were never exactly best friends, but we were close enough that every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every 4th of July barbecue meant sitting at the same table, splitting dessert, and listening to the older adults argue about politics like it was a national sport. When the diagnosis came, the entire family rallied around her immediately. Hospital visits, meal trains, GoFundMe links, emotional family Zoom calls where half the people cried and the other half tried to sound strong for everyone else. The whole thing. The doctors told her she needed a kidney transplant soon. So the entire family started going through compatibility testing. One by one, people were ruled out. Wrong blood type, existing health issues, not a close enough match. Eventually, there was only one person left, me. When the doctor called to confirm it, I remember sitting on my apartment couch, staring at the blank TV screen for a long time. My heart was pounding so hard I could actually hear it in my ears, because suddenly, the whole situation was no longer hypothetical. It was real, and I didn't hesitate. I told the doctor yes. I told my parents yes. I told Tessa yes. I still remember the moment I told her. She started crying on the phone, full-on sobbing, saying I was saving her life, saying she would never forget this, saying I was her hero. Hero. God, that word aged terribly. For the next few weeks, everything seemed normal. We started the transplant preparation process. Blood work, scans, consultations, meetings with specialists. The doctors explained the risks to me carefully, more than once. Losing a kidney is not a small thing. Possible surgical complications, long-term health considerations, permanent lifestyle changes. But I accepted it, because at the end of the day, it meant Tessa could have a normal life again. And honestly, at that point, she seemed grateful. Really grateful. But somewhere along the line, something changed. It started small, little things. Tessa began acting like she was the center of gravity in every family conversation. Which, to be fair, she kind of was. She was the one who was sick, after all, so nobody pushed back. If she complained, people comforted her. If she asked for help, people rushed to help. If she snapped at someone, everyone pretended they didn't notice. I told myself it was stress. Kidney failure is not exactly a calm, peaceful experience. But then the group chat happened. Our family was planning a birthday party for our great-aunt Margaret. She's the kind of elderly relative everybody adores. Sweet, stubborn, always sneaking homemade cookies into people's purses and coat pockets like she's running some kind of underground sugar operation. So naturally, We wanted to get her a nice gift. Tessa made the group chat to organize everything, which seemed normal at first. Then she started managing it. That's the best word I can use. She assigned tasks, told people who should handle decorations, who should bring food, who should reserve the restaurant room. Again, still mostly fine, but the tone started changing. Instead of asking, she was telling. Instead of suggesting, she was demanding. And the strangest part, she wasn't contributing anything herself. She said she didn't have the energy to work much because of her illness, which meant she wasn't pitching in financially for the gift. That by itself would have been completely understandable. But then came the gift debate. Someone suggested a few options. A nice watch, a framed family photo collage, a spa weekend. Then Tessa jumped in with her own idea, and not like a suggestion, like a decree. She said we had to buy Aunt Margaret a very specific antique porcelain figurine she had found online. The thing cost an insane amount of money, way more than the budget everyone had been discussing. When someone gently pointed that out, she doubled down. She said it was the only appropriate gift. She said anything else would be embarrassing. And again, she wasn't paying for it. At first, people tried to reason with her. They explained Aunt Margaret probably wouldn't even like something that fancy. They reminded her that the point of the gift was to show love, not drain everybody's bank account. That's when Tessa exploded. I'm not exaggerating. She sent what felt like a full-on manifesto into the group chat, paragraph after paragraph, about how the family was ungrateful, how nobody knew how to do things properly, how everyone lacked taste. And then she said something that made my stomach tighten. She said that if people actually cared about family, they would stop arguing and just do what she told them to do. The chat went quiet for a minute. Then somebody tried to smooth things over, but Tessa kept going, and going, and going. It felt like she was talking down to everyone, like she was the only adult in the room, and the rest of us were idiots who needed to be managed. My phone kept buzzing in my hand while I stared at the screen, feeling something inside me slowly tighten. Because the more she typed, the more I realized something. This wasn't stress. This wasn't fear. This was entitlement. Finally, I snapped. I typed out a message, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted it again. But when I finally hit send, the words came out sharper than I intended. I told her she was the rudest sick person I had ever met in my life. I told her she needed to learn how to be grateful to the people who loved her. The chat froze. Everybody saw the message. Then Tessa replied almost immediately, and the tone of her response made my blood boil. She wrote, "Oh, really? And exactly how do you plan to teach me that lesson, Nikki?" It was sarcastic, mocking, like she thought I had no power in the situation, like she had already won. And in that moment, something inside me snapped all the way. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I typed one sentence that changed everything. "Go find another kidney, you ungrateful jerk." Then I left the group chat. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set my phone down on the counter. For about 5 minutes, my apartment was completely silent. Then the call started. The first call came from my mom. I watched my phone vibrate on the kitchen table, my screen lighting up with her name, and I just stared at it like it was some kind of bomb. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and pulled it one notch too far. I already knew what the call was about. Of course I did, because the second I sent that message into the family group chat, I knew there was no taking it back. When the phone stopped ringing, it only stayed quiet for maybe 10 seconds before it started buzzing again. This time it was my uncle, Tessa's dad. I didn't answer that one either. Then came my aunt. Then my cousin Ryan. Then 3 messages in a row from people still in the group chat. By the time the phone finally stopped, my stomach felt like it had dropped off a cliff. Part of me wanted to crawl back into the chat and apologize right away. Swallow my pride, say I didn't mean it, say I was emotional, say anything to undo what I had just done. But another part of me, the part that had been quietly simmering for weeks, refused, because the more I replayed the conversation in my head, the angrier I got. Not just at Tessa, at everyone, because nobody had said a single word to her while she was lecturing the entire family like we were incompetent children. But the moment I pushed back, suddenly I was the problem. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my older sister, Kayla. I hesitated, then answered. The second I picked up, she let out a breath like she had been holding it for a while. Nikki, what happened? Her voice wasn't angry. If anything, it sounded exhausted. I rubbed my forehead with my hand. Did you read the chat? Yeah, she said slowly. And? I asked. There was a long pause. I mean, you definitely went a little nuclear. I laughed, but it came out flat and hollow. A little. Another pause. I'm not saying she wasn't being difficult, Kayla said carefully. But bringing the kidney into it, that word just hung there between us. Kidney. I leaned back against the couch and stared up at the ceiling. Kayla, I said quietly. She was talking to everybody like we were her employees. I know. And nobody said anything. I know. And she's demanding we buy some ridiculously expensive gift she isn't even helping pay for. I know. Her voice softened a little. But she's scared, Nikki. The words landed on me like a dull weight, because that part, I understood. Of course she was scared. Kidney failure is not something you just shrug off. I closed my eyes and sighed. I get that she's scared, I said. But that does not give her a free pass to treat everybody like garbage. Kayla didn't argue with that. Instead, she asked the question I'd been avoiding. So, did you mean it? I knew exactly what she meant. Did I actually plan to back out of the transplant? I sat there in silence for several seconds, because when I wrote those words in the chat, they came out of anger. Pure adrenaline. But now the weight of them was settling in. I don't know, I admitted. Kayla sighed. Well, you should probably figure it out soon, because Tessa is not doing great right now. What does that mean? She's crying. A lot. I didn't say anything. She thinks you hate her. My jaw tightened. I don't hate her, I said. Then maybe talk to her. I looked at the dark window across the room. No. Kayla sounded surprised. You're not even willing to talk? Not tonight. The truth was, I wasn't ready, because if I talked to her while I was still this angry, things would only get worse. We ended the call a few minutes later, but the silence in my apartment didn't bring any peace. Instead, it gave my brain too much room to think. And once the adrenaline wore off, the guilt started creeping in, because no matter how rude Tessa had been, she was still sick. She was still waiting for a transplant. And technically, I had just threatened to take away the thing that might save her life. I slept horribly that night. My brain kept replaying the chat over and over. Her messages. My message. That one sentence. Go find another kidney. By morning, the whole family had heard about it. I knew because my phone had a dozen new texts waiting for me. Some were neutral. Hey. Maybe everybody just needs to cool off. Some were gently critical. That was a little harsh. And some were not gentle at all. My aunt sent a message that said, Tessa is under unimaginable stress right now. You need to be more compassionate. More compassionate? That phrase made my stomach twist, because nobody seemed to care that I was the one preparing to give up an organ. I was the one facing surgery. I was the one accepting permanent health changes. And somehow, I was still the bad guy. By midday, the pressure really started building. Relatives called, texted, left voicemails. The message was always the same. You should apologize. You didn't mean it. Your family. You can't punish someone for being sick. That last one made my blood boil. Punish someone? Was that really what they thought this was? Around 3 that afternoon, Kayla called again. I picked up immediately this time. She wants to talk to you, my sister said. Tessa? Yeah. My stomach tightened. And? She wants to know if you still plan to go through with the surgery. There it was. The real question. Not the apology. Not the argument. The kidney. My kidney. I walked to the kitchen and leaned against the counter, staring at the tile floor. For a long moment, I didn't say anything. Kayla waited. Finally, I spoke. Honestly? Yeah. I don't know if I want to anymore. The silence on the other end was heavy. Not angry, just stunned. Are you serious? Kayla asked quietly. I'm thinking about it. She sighed slowly. Nikki, this is not a small decision. I know. If you pull out, she goes back on the transplant list. I know. That could take years. I know. Every answer tasted bitter in my mouth. Kayla lowered her voice. She already told the doctors you were the donor. I know. Another pause. Do you really want to do this to her? That question felt like a punch to the chest because it implied something. That this decision was about hurting Tessa. But it wasn't. Not really. It was about something else entirely. Respect. Gratitude. Basic human decency. I rubbed my face with both hands. Kayla, I said slowly, do you know what the weirdest part of all of this is? What? Not once. Not one single time during that entire group chat that she acknowledged what I'm about to do for her. Kayla didn't respond. She didn't say thank you. Silence. She didn't say she appreciated it. Silence. She acted like it was already hers. That realization had been chewing at me since the night before, and saying it out loud made it feel even heavier. Kayla finally spoke. I think she assumed it was understood. Yeah, I said quietly. Maybe it should have been. My sister didn't argue with me after that. Before hanging up, she said something that stayed with me for days. I support whatever you decide, she said. Just make sure you're doing it for the right reason. After that call, I did something drastic. I blocked Tessa and anybody else who tried messaging me about the kidney. If someone wanted to talk to me about anything else, fine. But the second the conversation turned into guilt-tripping me about donating my organ, I shut it down immediately. That decision did not make me popular. Over the next few weeks, the family tension got worse. People whispered about me. Some stopped talking to me completely. And Tessa, she tried reaching me through Kayla multiple times. She cried, she begged, she promised she would apologize. But by then, something inside me had hardened. Because the truth was, I didn't want an apology that came from panic. I wanted one that came from understanding. And I wasn't convinced she understood anything. So I told Kayla something that shocked even her. I'm not doing the surgery. The moment those words left my mouth, I felt something strange settle in my chest. Not relief, not exactly guilt either. More like the quiet realization that I had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Kayla didn't say anything for a few seconds after I told her I wasn't doing it. I could practically hear her trying to process what I'd just said. You're serious, she finally murmured. Yeah, you're really not going through with it. No. She sighed slowly, and I could picture her rubbing the bridge of her nose the way she always does when she's stressed. Nikki, the doctors are already scheduling things. I know. She's counting on you. The way she said that word, counting, made my stomach twist. But instead of backing down, I felt my jaw tighten. That's exactly the problem. Kayla didn't say anything. She's counting on me like it's automatic, I continued. Like she already owns the kidney. You did say yes, originally, and she turned that yes into a guarantee. Silence. I never said she could treat everybody like garbage in the meantime. Kayla let out a slow breath. I get why you're angry, she said carefully. But backing out of an organ donation because of a fight, it's not just a fight. My voice came out sharper than I meant it to. It's about respect. Another long pause stretched between us. Finally, she said, have you told the transplant coordinator yet? No. You probably should, before rumors get even worse. She wasn't wrong. If I didn't inform the doctor soon, the whole thing would spiral into even more chaos. After we hung up, I sat there staring at my phone again, the same phone that had started this entire mess. I pulled up the transplant clinic's number and hovered my thumb over the call button. My heart was beating faster than it should have been, because even though I had already told my sister my decision, making that call would make it real, permanent. I took a breath and pressed dial. The coordinator answered after 2 rings. Her voice was calm and professional. The kind of voice that makes it sound like everything in the world can be sorted neatly into a file somewhere. After confirming my identity, she asked how I was doing. I swallowed. I need to withdraw from the donor process. The words felt heavy in my mouth, but once they were out, there was no taking them back. She didn't sound surprised. In fact, her tone barely changed at all. May I ask whether this decision is related to medical concerns or personal reasons? Personal. Understood. She explained that donors had the right to withdraw at any time. No explanation required. They would simply mark the donor process as discontinued. That was it. No judgment. No pressure. Just a clinical note in a medical system. When the call ended, I sat there staring at the dark screen for a long time. Because for the first time since the fight, everything felt quiet, like the storm had finally passed. But that peace didn't last. 2 days later, my aunt called, and this time, I answered. The second I said hello, I could hear that she had been crying. Nikki, is it true? My chest tightened. Is what true? That you told the hospital you're not donating? So the news had already spread. Yes, I said. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. How could you do this? Her voice cracked. Do you realize what you've done? My fingers tightened around the phone. I didn't do anything to her. You took away her chance to live. That's not true. It is true. Her voice rose. She told everyone you promised. I did promise, I said quietly. And then she showed me exactly how much that promise meant to her. My aunt sounded confused. What does that even mean? It means she treated me like I owed her my kidney. That's ridiculous. No, I said calmly. What's ridiculous is acting like someone else's body belongs to you. She started crying again. You're punishing her because she's sick. I'm not punishing her. Then what are you doing? The answer came out before I could soften it. I'm protecting myself. Silence. Heavy silence. Finally, she said something that I think she meant as an accusation, but it came out sounding more like disbelief. She cried for hours after that fight. My chest tightened again, but I didn't respond. She begged your sister to talk to you. Still nothing. She is terrified she's going to die. That one landed harder. For a second, I closed my eyes, because the truth was, I did care. Despite everything, despite the argument, despite her attitude, despite the way she had spoken to the whole family like they worked for her, I didn't want her to die. But caring about someone didn't mean surrendering my autonomy. Eventually my aunt spoke again, her voice quieter now. You could save her life. I took a deep breath, and she could have treated me like a human being. The call ended not long after that, and for the next few weeks, The tension in the family reached a level I had never experienced before. Family dinners became awkward. Some relatives refused to speak to me. Others tried to stay neutral. Kayla remained the only person who openly supported my right to choose. And Tessa? She disappeared. No more messages. No more indirect attempts to reach me. At first, I thought it was just because I had blocked her. But then Kayla told me something surprising. She's not really talking to anybody much, my sister said during one of our weekly calls. What do you mean? She's embarrassed. That caught me off guard. Embarrassed? Yeah. Kayla hesitated before continuing. She went back and read the group chat again. And apparently she realized how bad she sounded. I didn't know what to say to that. Her doctors told her she needed to start looking for another donor right away, Kayla added. My stomach twisted. Did she find one? Not yet. Weeks passed, then months. The family drama slowly cooled off, but the tension never fully disappeared. Every now and then, I'd hear updates from Kayla. Tessa was still on dialysis, still searching for a donor, still struggling. And every time I heard those updates, a tiny voice in the back of my mind whispered the same question. Did I make the wrong decision? But then I would remember the group chat, the entitlement, the complete lack of gratitude, and the doubt would start to fade. About 4 months after everything happened, Kayla called me again. This time her voice sounded lighter. Nikki, she said. Yeah? Tessa found a donor. My entire body relaxed instantly. Seriously? Yeah, one of her coworkers turned out to be a match. I leaned back against the couch and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That's good. Really good. The surgery is next month. For the first time since this entire situation started, I felt something close to real relief. Not because I had been proven right, but because the worst possible outcome had been avoided. Tessa wasn't going to die. Life was moving forward. But even after the transplant was successful, even after the family tension slowly started fading, one question kept coming back again and again. At family holidays, in quiet conversations, even in my own thoughts late at night. Was I wrong for saying no? And honestly, I still don't know. I'm still trying to make sense of all of it. What would you have done if you were in my place? Would you have gone through with the surgery anyway? Or would you have drawn the same boundary? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real moments where life forces people to make impossible choices, make sure to subscribe.